What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Dave Gold Evolve podcast. We've got Sardor, or Sam, as he's commonly known. And Sam, you're going to have to pronounce your last name for me. How do you say it?
Ahmedov.
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 Ahmedov. Yep. And Sam is from Uzbekistan?
Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan.
Yep, that's right.
But now he lives in America. And we met through a mutual friend. We were put in the same group of 75 Day Hard. I didn't finish. Sam did. Maybe we'll talk about that on the podcast. Yep. But I wanted to bring Sam on because he's a shining example of a guy who is very entrepreneurial, hasn't made a lot of excuses for making the best of his situation in life, and has gone from the place that he was born to a whole new country and created a lot of success from basically nothing. So we've got a lot of guys in the Dave Gold Evolve Mastermind who, are thinking about doing the same thing. And I think that you can be another inspiration for them. So thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Great. Thank you, David, for this awesome introduction. I am honored to be here on your show.
Amazing. So let's kick it off with a little quick story of your life. What happened? You were growing up in Uzbekistan. What was it like living there, and why did you decide to come to the United States?
Yeah, sure. Yes, so I came here to the US 6 years ago as a student when I got a scholarship for high school. Went all the way to Massachusetts, but I never actually thought about moving to the US or working here or living here in a different country. I was pretty much very happy with my own, where I was at in Uzbekistan, and for me, it wasn't a plan even up until I'd say 2 years back when I decided to actually stay in the US. My plan was to actually come back and do what I was planning to do back in Uzbekistan. So I when I was 16, my parents kind of told me, hey, why don't you go abroad to study? And there's this opportunity, and I was really thinking about the UK as a country I was gonna go to, but then I ended up actually going to the US last minute, right before I was about to get my visa for to go to the UK. There was this sudden opportunity that I got a scholarship from, and so yeah, it was kind of a very quick pivot moment when I, instead of going to the UK, I ended up going here. And then after I started networking here and getting to know people, doing some business on the side, I kind of started associating myself with the US more than Uzbekistan. 2 years ago when I went back, I actually, had this impression that, hey, I actually don't fit in here in this culture. And
why is that?
Really weird.
What's the culture like in Uzbekistan?
Yes. Oh yeah. To answer your first question about what is it like? It's a great country in terms of people are very, hospitable. You're always feel welcome there. But it's also a developing country, right? So the average person there wouldn't be very educated, unfortunately. And so it's really hard to even sustain a conversation right now with my peers, even back home. The guys that I used to be friends with, they're in a completely different world right now. And having lived here for 6 years, it's really hard to connect with them right now. But for somebody who was born and raised there, I guess it's a great environment. In terms of business environment, it's really opportunistic right now. The market is amazing. You can make a lot of money there because it's finally opened up from a dictatorship that was for 20 years there, 25 years, and then with the new regime, it's more liberal right now. But I still, in terms of culture, it's just different. People are still very conservative, and with my mentality right now that I have here after living here for 6 years, it's hard to connect with the population.
So you moved initially to Boston for school, and then you lived in New York, and now you're in Miami. What has been the difference? Which places have you liked? What's been going on for you with the United States?
Yeah, so yeah, actually, I didn't go to Boston first. It was a very small town in Massachusetts called
Mm.
Granby. It's right next to Springfield, and it was a tiny town with 2,000 people living there, and there was just only two schools, one public, one private school, and I went to the private boarding school. But my experience here was really tough for the first, I would say, 2 months, because high school alone by itself is very stressful experience for kids. But for me, coming from a completely different country, thank God I had a language, so I could speak English, but still it was hard to connect. But then I kind of found my circle. I found a circle of friends. They were from Russia, most of them, so it was easier to connect.
And
But
is
but
in
once I
Uzbekistan you speak Russian?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
You
we do
speak
speak Russian
Russian.
because
Is there
and Uzbek.
Uzbeki?
Yeah, Uzbek
And what
language,
about
and
English?
English is only among, I would say, educated level of people, which is minority. Very
Mhm.
very small amount of people speak English. But yeah, generally, it's the two languages. Everybody, at least to a certain extent, speaks Russian, which is kind of fading away right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of people are not speaking Russian, not learning it, are against Russian, which I don't think is right, because Russian is a pretty big language in a lot of countries. But still, that's a different issue of its own. So for me, yeah, I was able to connect with these Russian guys because of the similar culture. We were both part of the Soviet Union, so we do have some common ground there. And I got comfortable like that. And after 2 years of high school, I actually got into a few different schools in California and a few in New York. But I chose New York because my sister was there. So I went to New York. I went to New York Institute of Technology to study electrical engineering. And after some time, I just realized that I'm better off being an entrepreneur and studying business and really focusing there instead of trying to become an engineer. Because the reason I even went to engineering is because I had ideas for IT companies, IT, I guess startups, right, in the tech. But I thought back then that you would have to know programming and engineering yourself in order to operate a business in this field, which is not right, which is not true. And now I realize that you don't have to be a programmer or developer in order to operate a business in the IT at all. You'd have to know a little bit about IT, of course, but you don't have to necessarily become a programmer, right? Which is another question of its own. But so yeah, and then I've been living in New York for some time. I briefly moved to LA for school when I transferred out, and I've been kind of back and forth with Uzbekistan. Every year I used to go for my vacation in Uzbekistan for 3 months in summer, because I still didn't know that I was going to stay. I didn't want to stay here. I was back and forth. But 2 years ago, 2018, when I finally went back, and I decided to kind of like pause college at least. Now I call it dropping out, but back then I called it pausing. And I went for my entrepreneurial journey. I realized that I want to stay here. I want to stay here. I want to make my ground here in the US. So I lived in New York for another 2 years. And then this year I actually moved out to Miami because of the weather, because of the taxes, and overall it's just a much I'm saving a lot of money here, living here, and living in a much better conditions, because the standard of living for the money that you pay is much higher here than in New York.
I can relate to you on
So
that one because I was living in Israel for 6 years and in Tel Aviv for 2. And then this year as well, I moved back to Tel Aviv, and it's one of the most expensive cities in the world. So when I have come now to Budapest, the bang for your buck is really good. And I'm able to
totally.
find really good, living accommodations, and it's much more comfortable. And I don't have to, spend my whole monthly salary just on rent, which is
Exactly.
nice. Now, you have done what a lot of others want to do. You've lived in New York, you've lived in LA, you've lived in Miami. What do you think are the biggest myths or misconceptions that outsiders have of these, movie title places in America? Then you come, you get to really live in them. is it really all it's built up to be, or are there some downsides that you didn't see before moving to these places?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, with New York, especially when I first visited 7 years ago, I just came to visit for a month, the U.S. and first impression was like really kind of disappointing because it was this moment when I was like, wow, in the movies it looked also shiny and really beautiful, but and my sister back then, she was living in Brooklyn and not so well part of Brooklyn, and I was kind of like disappointed by this experience because it's not like in the movies,
No, it's not.
yeah, it's totally not. And like unless maybe you are living on Fifth Avenue, and which is something that
If you're a
I have
model
not
or you're a
experienced.
stockbroker,
Yeah,
all right, you can
exactly.
live a nice life. And even the models, they
Yeah,
pack them in like 4 or 5 in a little shared apartment on 34th Street.
exactly. Exactly. You know the truth. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's totally not like that. Even in LA, it was probably one of the most disappointing cities because like the moment I remember I went to downtown LA at night, it was like all these homeless people out there, and it
Yeah.
really looked. And I have empathy for them, of course, but the city was not lively at all. And apparently the stuff happens more towards like Melbourne Avenue there, or like the Beverly Hills and whatnot. But really, that's what pretty much LA is about. It's not about downtown at all. And yeah, I didn't like it, LA, honestly. Maybe because I didn't find a circle.
Hmm.
But New York, coming back to New York from LA, that was a totally different experience. I lived in this part of Brooklyn called Bushwick, which is a
Hmm.
very young population crowd, and all of my friends lived there. It was very fun.
I lived there for a few
Um,
weeks last year when I was
oh yeah,
traveling and doing business development in New York. I started out in Queens, it was quite kind of far, and then I ended in Bushwick, and I had a really nice experience there. So compared to Manhattan, Queens, the Bronx, I actually really liked that area of New York City.
yeah, it's very beautiful. And in terms of like, it looks like a ghetto. Actually, it's not beautiful, but it's like it's a very interesting experience
It's
for young
chill.
people because
It's
it's a
chill.
young
You get a
crowd.
good
It's chill, exactly,
vibe.
very chill.
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. All these clubs out there and everything. It's really cool for young people. And yeah, so I lived there, but then I really realized, my ambition was that and I had this nice view from my rooftop to Manhattan, and I was like, and Manhattan is like double the price of Bushwick, right?
That's right.
So I was like, well, let me work hard and I'm gonna move to Manhattan next year. So I set that goal. I said I'm gonna live on like downtown Manhattan or Midtown or Uptown Manhattan, whatever part of it I like more. But then I worked hard. I started making more money. So the point I could afford the Manhattan place already, pretty much any part of it has come. And the funny thing is, I did not have that desire anymore to live there, to live in Manhattan, to live in that, whatever Central Park overlooking apartment. I really did not. And maybe I will, when I visit, I want to, stay there for 1 or 2 nights just to experience that place because it's beautiful. Yeah. But to rent it for a few nights, yes, but not to spend a whole lot of money on rent because right now I'm actually in Miami again, coming back to that spending thing, I'm saving a lot of money. And what I realized this year is that it's more mature and more smart to put your money into savings or put it in the investment account in terms like you can buy stocks and everything. And that's a much better use of your money than like who are you buying that who are you renting that apartment for? Yeah, it's that level of comfort, I guess. Well, I'm living in a luxury apartment here as well, but I'm spending like a fraction of what I would spend in the Manhattan area, right? So yeah, that was just a funny thing for me because last year, if you ask me, I would say definitely I'll be moving to a very nice apartment in Manhattan. Right now, I don't have that desire.
All right, so New York wasn't what it was made up to be. I agree with that. I'm from Philadelphia. My dad's from New York. It's smelly in the summer and really cold in the winter. The subways, although they get you everywhere, can take a long time and be really jam
Yeah,
packed. Corona hit really bad in New York City, and then in LA, it's really hard to get around because they don't have good public transportation, and there is a lot of homelessness. Now, what about
exactly.
Miami? Are there any downsides to living in Miami?
I guess, it's hard to judge right now, although the city has reopened.
Yeah.
But I kind of miss that New York vibe actually, because I like New York for its busyness and all the people around. I'm a very extroverted person, so I need that vibe. I need people around me. But I guess if you go to downtown Miami, though, it's very much similar to New York. It's in the Brickell area, which is, again, I did not end up living there because again, I want to save up. I'm living in towards Midtown, but here it's a little bit, the places are not so scattered. Like, I mean, it's more scattered. It's not so packed, and like the area is less busy. But the downside really I see is that, I guess, only the that busy vibe that I'm missing, I guess, in New York. But other than that, no, I only see the upsides, and upsides are much higher. Yeah, I think I can't say it's an ideal place. I want to travel around next year. I want to go for a traveling, like go all over the states, just to live in every different state, like for a month or so. But
Every state? You want to live in
no, not every
Iowa
single
and
state.
Nebraska?
No.
I
No,
would
no, no.
recommend maybe Colorado. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you could go out to California, to San Diego, or to Seattle,
Yeah.
Washington. Anyways, Sam, how old are you right now?
I'm 22.
You're 22. And at what age
Yeah.
did you start your first business?
Well, if you're talking very first business, and I
Yeah.
guess you can call it business because it was profitable and it was cool back then, I was 10 years old. And at 10 years old, I can say I started my first IT business
Yeah.
because I used to, have this Sony Ericsson phone when everybody else had the Nokia phone. And I figured out how to send games. If you remember, it was a big thing to play video games, and there was no internet to like easily download from, or app store to download the games from. So what we used to do is, everybody who had a computer, if you knew computers well, you could download your games from computer. But it was very popular back then in Uzbekistan to like go to somewhere where you pay a person and they upload the game to your phone through this wire. They connect it to a computer. It's a very weird experience that Gen Z population will not understand. But
I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay, so you lived in a developed country,
I'm
so you don't
20.
know.
I'm 29. I remember
Okay.
the Game Boy, the Xbox, and growing up in
Okay.
the
You
suburbs
never
of
played games
Philadelphia.
on your punch phone? Did you have a Nokia phone?
The only games that I remember that could have been possibly like that are the one where the thing like goes left and right and the ball comes down and you've got to save it before it
Oh,
falls down.
that
Or
was on the Windows.
yeah, or Tetris.
Oh, okay. So you didn't play games on your phone. Wow. You were one of the rare people. It was like the kids back when I was growing up, at least, it's very popular to play games on a phone. It's still popular, but it's now on iPhone or Android devices. But back then it was Nokia devices or like other devices that had this. I think the software was called Symbian. But anyways, these games were really hard to like upload to your phone, and not everybody knew it. So I figured out a way how to send the games on offline through one phone to another through Bluetooth. So I used to charge my classmates and other kids from other classes, other groups in school to upload games on their phone, right? And I invested into this huge memory card that held like hundreds of games. So I had a big selection, and I used to charge kids to send them each game for a certain price. And I did it cheaper than others did. So I kind of had that competitive edge. And so that was my first business, I guess, at the age of 10. But really, if we're talking like a serious business, then I'd say I had a few side hustles, but a company of my own, I founded in 2017, 3 years ago. It's called NutriFirst. And I partnered up with a person who was already doing it. So really quickly got into market and became the biggest distributor of the sport nutrition in Uzbekistan. So, and I made a deal with 10 brands here, with some of them have an exclusive contract to be the only exclusive distributor for the area. And really that's when some big money started coming in when, I was still 19. And that was my first own business. And I recently, like around 2 or 3 weeks ago, I finally exited that business, which I'm very happy about because it was my only offline business left. But then my main thing right now is, I am an IT entrepreneur, and I'm a managing partner at a few companies, IT companies. And the main one is Jafton.com, which is an IT consultancy. And we do outsource development for government agencies and for private organizations here in the United States. And that's our main thing. And we also have this remote work automation company product called Miz.com, which is, essentially anything for your remote work. So yeah, and at that company also, I started working there as an intern, but then I worked my way up to become a shareholder and a partner in that company. And that's how I got into the IT business.
So I've got one guy who's a part of the mastermind right now who is interested in teaching tech, teaching IT to generations that aren't so good with it. What would you say to someone that wants to start their own, IT or tech business? Are the 3 or 4 or 5 biggest, I guess, things to remember, okay, or think about as they're getting started in, starting their first business?
Yeah, well, I don't know about 3 or 4 or 5, but a few things just that are on my mind. Some people have been reaching out lately, asking about this a lot. How do I set up my own IT company, especially IT outsourcing company, because I'm in this business, right? And first of all, I cannot disclose all the details of how to set it up. I'm at this point where I know enough to start the similar business from ground up on my own. But the biggest thing is, the other day, this guy I know who used to work at our company, he reached out to me and asked, he said, I'm starting my own IT company, outsourcing company, and I gathered a team of developers. Now the biggest problem, he says, is I don't have orders. I need to find clients. And thing is, it's very exciting when you're starting a business, because you go ahead and come up with the name, you come up with the logo, you do assemble a team, you invest in the office and everything. But then the biggest thing is, if you don't have clients, none of that matters. You can have the best team in the world, you can have the best, fanciest office in the world, but you don't have clients, how are you going to do business, right? And now he's thinking, and he doesn't know how to get clients, but he already did the rest, that he needs to done prior. But so my advice is start with the latter first. Start with business development process, learn sales, learn how to get clients, go network, go work in a company that does it to find out how they're doing it. And only then, because if you close a deal, believe it or not, I myself, I'm very much involved still in sales in our company.
Yeah.
And I do client calls myself. And, if a client asks me, hey, can you develop XYZ? And I see that I don't have that kind of a team members on my staff, sometimes I might, take that client just because I know that I have access to talent. I can quickly, gather a team of developers for that project, and I can deliver on that. But if I did the opposite, if I hired guys and then I was looking for similar project, that would be a loss for me. So that's the biggest thing, first go and learn sales. Sales is the biggest thing in business. It firsthand. So
I do know it firsthand because, last year I was doing business development, traveling around the world, working for different tech startups. And my first job, I was just like a knife salesman in the US. It's one of the one of the most popular jobs, I think, for kids that are in college or just getting out. Go and sell an American made knife to your friends and family, and then start to build that network. And I did it really successfully. But what I've done now with the coaching that I do is help guys to realize the correlation between business and dating. That if you learn how to sell yourself in business, you should be able to sell yourself in the dating market as well, and vice versa. Now, you need to understand the crossover, and you also need to understand how to apply different terms, okay? Like qualifying, okay? Like prospecting, all right? How you network, how you market yourself, the clothes that you wear, all right? The way that you present yourself. It's all very important. But if you can understand the crossover, in the end of the day, we're all just selling ourselves. Now, what's behind that is, where is it coming from? Are you selling yourself because you want to get rich? Are you selling yourself
Yeah,
because you want to get laid? Or are you selling yourself because you want to help other people? Okay, because you want to serve others, because you want to change the world for the better. Then that's getting up to the higher level, the higher scale of consciousness, as we call it.
totally. Yeah, it's
But
about your intentions, and people can tell your intentions,
yeah,
no matter how much you try to hide it. Yeah,
so
totally. And sales is very, very important. Like anybody, like even if you're not planning to do a business, like learn how to sell. And it's in this world. Like Grant Cardone even has this call, the book called
sell
"Sell
or
or
be
Be
sold.
Sold." Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you're either selling or you're sold.
You dropped out of university, of college, just once?
Yep. Um, I would say, well, yeah, once final. This
Yeah.
was the final decision. Yeah.
I'm a two-time college dropout, so I beat you there. But you've got three companies. I only have one right now. All right. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to catch up to you on that front. What was the biggest fear in dropping out of college, and why was it the best decision that you could have made at the time?
Right. Yeah, it's a very, tricky part, because a lot of people think that, hey, I'm like, this guy's encouraging people to drop out of college, which I'm
Yeah.
not, at least now, because at some point, yeah, I was kind of bullish on that. But right now, I say it's very individual. I don't encourage anybody to drop out or to stay, for that matter, universally. Like, it depends on very case by case thing. And for me, it was a hard choice, because I honestly really loved college, and I still do, and I still take courses and some academic courses, just to be in the know, because I get that high. I'm kind of a nerdish guy. I'm not a nerd in like all fields, but if I like the subject, I'm a beat your ass in that. Like, because I back in school, I only studied math and English, and that, but the rest I didn't care about. I got like C's and D's, but like math and English, I used to beat everybody. I used to win all these, like, contests in school and everything. But anyways, even in college, I had these. College is better because I was able to choose my subjects myself. So most of the subjects that I like. So I
Mhm.
was like very competitive in that manner, very nerdish. I loved college. But then I was also very entrepreneurial always, and I wanted to get into business as soon as possible. And especially because I needed money back then. Money was a problem back then, so I was trying to hustle and do some certain things, even to at least provide for myself and pay my tuition, right? So, and I started this when I started this sport nutrition business, and it started going well finally. Which prior to that, for a year, I really struggled. I took a semester off, because I got into this college that was very, expensive, even with the scholarship. So I took a semester off after a year, and wanted to build a business so I could at least pay my tuition from that business, right? And what turned out to happen is that for like 90% of that semester, I struggled. My business wasn't going well at all. Like, I was trying to do online sales, e-commerce, whatnot. Didn't go. And then finally, by the end, when I already started back in college, went back to college after a semester off, the business started taking off, right? And I was able to pay for my tuition. But with that also, I had much less time for college, because I was doing sales again, talking to my suppliers, doing all the business stuff, wanted to grow this company big, because it's this exciting moment when your business is finally taking off, after so much effort. So for me, I thought, I just started like looking at these subjects in a different way, because I've seen that I'm not using all this knowledge directly in the business. It is an awesome knowledge. I want to learn economics just because it's interesting, but it's not directly helping me in my business, right? So I started prioritizing, right? But it was still a hard decision. So I went ahead and talked to a guy who happened to give a speech at our college, like a sign from, whatever universe you call it. He came to our college to give a speech on how he started his own business. And then he turned out to be a dropout. So I went ahead and networked with him and talked to him, and I asked him, what was the biggest regret that you have, or like, why did you drop out? Are you regretting at all? He said, I'm taking online courses right now, and I'm doing my business. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
And he said, there's certain things that you take from college, like networking, learning some soft skills. Awesome. Learn that. But if your business is going well, you should stress on business because you don't want it to die right now. You finally made a profitable business. Go ahead and like focus on it, he said, right? And so that's what I ended up doing. You know, I ended up quitting college. And since then, I've just been taking some professional courses. Oh, what I also did is, you know, after that I finished that semester, so it was my third semester that I finished in college, I went ahead and during my summer break, I took professional courses on product management, right? And that course was very, very helpful in my career. So it was directly applicable for my business. And I said, fuck, why am I staying in college and learning all this thing that are not relevant, although it is interesting, while I could be learning some professional courses. So after that, I just started taking professional courses, and that's been my education. That's been my self-education in a way, you know, and the academics are kind of, you know, I paused that. So I think it was the right decision for me. But again, if I did not have the right business that was already set up and it was profitable, I would not drop out. And I don't suggest anybody drop out without actual tangible business.
So for me, my view on college and university is that a lot of people don't actually need to go, depending on what you want to do. Now, the one thing about going to university is yes, you can network, but also you can start to discover yourself, because a lot of people go into university, they switch majors, they don't really know what they want to do. They've been asked, do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be a politician? And then as they start to read into those things and pursue them more, they realize, well, that's not for me. The trouble is, sometimes people get stuck in the thinking that I've already come, 1, 2, 3 years into it. How can I quit? How can I go back? How can I start over? And a lot of times you're judging yourself based off of the other people at your same age, which isn't fair because people get really caught up on age. So they think, oh, I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to do 2 years and I'm going to be older than the other people in the class. And my friends are going to go off and get jobs and get girlfriends and get married. And it's a really toxic way of thinking. For me, I dropped out. I had gone through a lot of stress, anxiety, depression. I know a lot of people as well in university go through a lot of mental health problems, a lot of anxiety and depression. It can be very difficult at times. And
Yep.
when I went to the place where I rediscovered myself in Israel, okay, after 2 years, I went into the army, not necessarily by choice. It was a mandatory service in Israel. But what did I discover? That most of the guys are going to be younger than me. They're going to be the 18, 19-year-olds that right after high school, they have to get drafted in the army, and I'm going to be much older than them. And so I had that experience of, all right, now I'm like the purple apple in the bunch. All right. I don't fit in. And so it's not going to be so smooth, but is it what's best for me at the time? Yes. Why? Because that was when I needed it. I came across another guy the other day who he just went back to school, and he feels it difficult to fit in, but at least he knows that this is what I really want to do. And I feel like the problem with university is that a lot of people fall in line to the thinking that when they go to school, it's because they have to go to school right after high school, or else they're not going to be able to get a job. They're not going to be able to have a life. When in reality, you could go back to school whenever you want, once you know what you want to do. Once you go into university, you should make the commitment and actually go to study. Because for me, it was go get drunk, join the fraternity, look at ways to get laid for the first time, party, have fun. All right. Escapism is really big, especially in America, where, in a sense, it is kind of like a prude society. And that's why, there are a lot of taboos around sex in America. I was just showing, my girlfriend the movie Euro Trip. If you guys haven't seen that, all right, that's that's a great movie, a nice American teen movie where you see the difference in the stereotypes between America and Europe, and a lot of them hold true. So, that's just my view on college and university. I see a lot of people who they continued and they finished and they graduated and they're, much more quote unquote normal or boring life. Okay. And you can just feel it. It seeps through in the conversation, in the way they market themselves, in what they're doing in life. Okay. In the struggles that they're going through. Why? Because they felt like they needed to fall in line with the society rather than break tradition, rather than take risk. And something that, we preach in the community that I've built is the greatest risk is not changing, is not taking action, okay? Is staying complacent. That's the greatest risk, is actually falling in line with what other people think you should do rather than following your heart, rather than asking yourself in your gut, what should I really do? Not necessarily the logical thing, but what does your heart tell you to do? All right. So recently, you decided to listen to your gut and to your heart and exit the business that you had started that created this whole lifestyle that you're living now. So
right.
What's been new? What has it helped free up? I know you made a post about this. You want to talk about that
Yep.
for a second?
Yeah, for sure. And this was a very big decision for me because it's the business that has always been profitable and been making me money, on the side. But it was something that I was not enjoying from day one. And I did enjoy it for some time because it was the first like big profitable business that I made. But it has never brought me anything related to my passion, so to say, right? And it was not related to the IT at all, and which is something that I'm very particular about. Even within IT, I have certain things that I'm passionate about, certain things I'm not passionate about, right? But this was totally out of scope. And it was something that I was kind of just dragging myself into, right? Although it only took like maybe 1 or maximum 2 hours a week to work on a week. So it's not a lot of time that I was spending. Most of the work was automated, but still what I realized is, whenever we say yes to something, we say no to something else, right? So by saying yes to this endeavor, to this side hustle that I called, this business, I was still losing my focus on what I was doing, and I realized that this is going to be a right decision in the long run, in the long term, if I just cut it out. And I tried to sell it, I got to be honest, for some time. And it would just take some time to sell it, and I would have to like prepare certain things. I could, if I was a little bit patient, I could sell my shares in that business as well. I even sacrificed that. I didn't even try to sell it as much because I was just like, all right, I'm just trying to get rid of it as soon as possible. And I exited the business, left it for my partner. He's an amazing person. I really admire him, and I respect him a lot for his, how hard he works, and it's his main focus, right? For me, it was not a main focus. So I exited the business, and now I am so happy. Believe it or not, I just realized how much it is not so much about money, and thank God, I still have my main income from what I do in the IT. It's a bigger income than I had in the sport nutrition, but it's even that additional money that I was making was not making me happy. It was making me miserable. So I chose happiness over money, as cliche as it sounds. And I just feel liberated, man. Just feel liberated.
Let's talk more about that. So you decide to choose happiness over money, and it liberates you. It opens up what in your life?
It just opened up this feeling of guilt I kind of had inside myself, that I was kind of cheating myself, by doing this, even though like I said, it was not taking up a lot of my time. But it was so hard that when my partner would text me, I would not open his text for a long time, pretending I was doing something else, and I just realized that I was cheating him as well, and I felt guilty in front of him. Especially in the partnership, it's really hard. If I was doing it by my own, I would have left it a long time ago. But because I was doing it with the partner, he was holding me accountable, which is another topic. If you wanted to stick to something, find partners. I'm very big on that. I don't ever start any initiatives, be that a nonprofit or a business, commercial business, whatnot, I don't ever start without partners, because partners hold you accountable. That's at least for me. I cannot, organize anything by my own and stick to it. And if I don't have anybody who's holding me accountable, it's just me. It's self-awareness game, right? But that's another topic. So about happiness over money, I just feel liberated because I don't have that sense of guilt anymore for my partner that I'm like not spending enough time and effort. Although we had an equal share in the business, he was working much more than me. So that was killing me as well, because I try to be as honest in the business and as transparent and as dedicated as possible if I'm doing something. I don't like taking advantage of people at all. It just eats me up. And I felt like I was taking advantage of him because he was a hard worker. He was dedicated to this. He was focusing completely on this whole time, full day, and I was not. So that just gave me a lot of happiness inside and liberation. And yeah, I think that also the respect. Oh, I gained respect for myself because the whole time I was like doing this, it kept me miserable because my self-esteem would go down. I was like feeling like so to say, like a pussy, to be open, because if I can't be open with myself and I can't be open, and I had a long time to it was hard conversation to have with my partner, because I couldn't tell him that I want to exit, because he was counting on me so much, because I handle a big part of the business as well with the supply side. It was a hard conversation. So I started respecting myself because I was strong enough to have the conversation. I had balls finally to do it. And that's part to, doing this 75 hard program and working on my discipline that helped me become courageous.
Okay.
Mostly it's actually another program by our common network called Managing Happiness by David Hensel.
David Hensel, episode number 2 of the Dave Godival podcast.
Oh yeah. I love this dude. We're having a call with him tomorrow. And he is the guy who told me first. He said, this is holding you back from happiness. Cut it out. Cut it out, he said, when I took his course. And I got to say huge thank you to David, because he was one of the people who was very much like straight told me what to do. And it just made me happy, really. So yeah, those are the biggest takeaways from cutting out my business.
My takeaway there was a lot of guys will choose the money and they'll choose validation over happiness. So if it's on a business front, they'll choose money and they'll slave away and they'll do, manipulation with sales, and they'll bring on clients they don't want to work with. Okay. And when it's on the dating front, they'll try to sleep with as many women as they can, and they'll try to sleep with the hottest ones, okay, and date only the hottest ones, but they'll get away from a strong moral system, a strong ideals. And it'll leave them feeling really empty at a certain point when they can't sustain the workload, when they can't sustain the relationship. And so that is so interesting that it took you so long to make this decision, to choose happiness over money. But most people go through the exact same thing, and they actually don't choose happiness for most of their life. With that being said, yeah, David Hensel and Managing Happiness's course really helped you, but also you said 75-day hard, and that was where we met. So I wanted to hear about your experience. Have you finished 75-day hard?
Yeah, so I kind of feel a little bit ashamed of that, but also you could call it excuse, but I'll be reasonable with it. So I started 75 hard on June 1st of this year, when my friend, our common friend Jacob, who's been very bullish on this, has told me about this. And it's funny because the first time I saw this program back in March, I looked at it and I was like, this is insane. I will never be able to do that. Now, looking back, I just realized how low ambitions I was, because I just told myself I couldn't do it right away. But when the second time I was looking at it, I was already taking the Managing Happiness course, so I had the balls already and discipline. And I said, I'm gonna do it. And so I started in June, and then I think I failed mid-July or something like that, because I fucked up on one of the things I have to do, right? And for those who don't know, I'm just gonna briefly tell. There's 5 things you have to do for 75 days straight. No pauses, no excuses. You have to drink a gallon of water. You have to do 2 workouts, 1 outdoor, 1 indoor, at least for 45 minutes. You have to read 10 pages of a physical book every single day, at least 10 pages. Then you have to, what was the other thing?
Progress
10 pages of
picture.
reading. Progress picture, exactly. Progress picture. You have to take progress picture because you're changing, and you have to report that. You don't have to post anywhere. You can just, have it for yourself. And then the 5th one, it's been a long time since I took it.
Water.
Yeah, I think I told water. Then there's workouts, progress picture. The what else was there? Oh, the book. And yeah, I think that's
And a clean
4.
diet.
But anyway,
and a clean diet.
oh yes, exactly. And the diet, yeah, the diet can be whatever you choose, right? So it doesn't have to be a specific keto diet or something, but it has to be clean. Yeah, it has to be clean diet, tailored for you, that you don't have to cheat on, right? So these 5 things, yeah. And I retook it. I kept failing, and on the last one I failed was the 4th attempt, I believe, on day 46. I just realized what it made me do is, I became much more disciplined, because every single time I kept going for longer and longer. First time I failed on day 25, then I failed on day 30 something, and then day 40 something. So I just kept building up my discipline more. But then it exposed me to a lot of my weaknesses that I was not realizing, because first weakness that I had apparently was the willpower thing. I was just lazy, and I kept making up excuses. So I cut that out. It helped my business a lot and my personal life. And then second thing is, I really have a poor time management skills. And this is why I failed, because I would stay up late, 2 o'clock in the morning, doing my workout just to finish the day, because I didn't plan it ahead properly, right? So it exposed me to that, which is why I want to start. I will start from scratch again, the 5th attempt, and I will finish it, because I told myself, until I finish these 75 days, why the fuck am I telling myself and putting so many ambitions, like telling that I'm going to be extraordinary person, when I cannot finish this fucking program and making up excuses for it? Then I'm not extraordinary. Like, you can still be successful without doing it, but if you want to be extraordinary successful, this should not scare you. Shit like this should not scare you. So
All right, well,
that was
let me know.
biggest
Let me
thing.
know when you start it, and I'll see how far I can get. I know that challenge is very difficult for me, especially when I don't have the gym right now. The gyms are closed again in Budapest. Kind of frustrating, but overall, that is a very powerful 75-day hard challenge by Andy. Andy Frisella?
Priscilla, yeah.
Yeah, great episode. Even if you don't do the 75-day hard challenge, just listen to that podcast episode. That will really get you fired up. That'll light fire right under your ass. Now, having that accountability in a Facebook group or in a managing happiness course is great, where you have that support. What about that support from your family? Have they been supportive of you in your entrepreneurial dreams? Or has that been something where you've had to set healthy boundaries and block them out at times?
Yep. So yeah, I can say I was always very, very lucky with, the parents that I have and my siblings and my entire family, pretty much. Because I'm probably gonna raise up my kids the way I was raised, because of how my parents raised us. That they never set boundaries for us. They always told us we could do whatever we want. They never told us, do this or do that. And I was telling this in a recent interview as well, that this is the perfect way of parenting, I believe. If you don't set hard boundaries for yourself, for your kids, of course you have to discipline them. Of course you have to teach them certain things, and that's what they did. And they would punish us as well when we misbehaved. But they never told us, hey, like, these are the strict rules. This is what you have to follow. No, they gave us so much freedom that we were kind of even lost. But it was a good thing, because then we would go and do our own mistakes and fuck up on our own. But then they would always be there to advise us and to guide us, right? So they raised us in a way that they don't tell us what to do. We come to them and ask them for advice, saying, hey mom, what do you think? Hey dad, what do you think? Because whenever my mom suggested me, especially something that I didn't follow her advice, I always fucked up. Because she and then the reason now I realize is because, you know, she knows it, she knows us better. Being you know, her kids, we are the same people that she was like 20 years ago, right? So yeah, that you know, for my family, I was very, very lucky with that, you know. And that's, I think, how you should raise your kids. You should give them all the freedom, and you should be advisors, not the dictators for your kids.
I love that personally because I haven't had the same experience with my family where I felt like there was very much a path that I needed to follow. And anytime I tried to veer off that path, there was a lot of judgment thrown around and a lot of negative reinforcement that failing was not necessarily a good thing, failing at something. And what I wanted to do was tie this into systems. So you said that in the way that you're going to raise your family is that they're not going to have necessarily a system that they need to follow. They can go off, your kids, and do what they want and then come back to you for advice. But when it comes to running a business, you preach having a system, okay, and multiple systems that work, all right, if you want to be successful. Why is there a difference there?
Yep, that's a great question. Yeah, and obviously, you know, it's not like, you know, but when I say freedom, I don't say that, hey, like, you don't have to discipline your kids. You obviously have to tell them how to discipline themselves, and how you have to set certain boundaries in terms of their perhaps like schedule. You know, when they should go to bed, or like, you know, the sports that they should do. For example, I didn't like, oh, there's certain things they enforced on me. For example, like they enforced swimming on me, right? Which I hated at first, but then I started loving it. So there were certain things, but they didn't enforce like that I should go to the US necessarily and not the UK. I chose that, right?
I resonate with that
It's,
because you know, my parents, I felt like forced things like piano, okay, and
yeah,
Hebrew school and things like that on me, and then I rebelled against it. And it wasn't until I had to have the freedom to make that decision that I embraced my heritage, that I felt remorse or regret for not learning a language, that when I had an opportunity to learn a new skill, let's say, for example, photography, which is my, you know, my new technical passion, that I actually took advantage of it and pursued it to the fullest rather than just quit after a few months because I was forced into doing it. Okay. Now, once you do figure out what you want to do, like right now in my community, okay, and tribe, we have a really clear purpose, right? We're trying to help hundreds, if not thousands, of men improve their business and dating lives holistically through personal branding and self-love. Okay. So once we found that vision of what we love to do, we realize as well that we need to have a system in place. But at the same time, in the beginning, you're going to suck at stuff. You're going to fail. So I want to bring it back. Why are systems so important and how do you implement them into your life?
yep, yep. So yeah, that the system part is something that, again, I learned from the Managing Happiness course in a way. And at the same time, I was reading this book called Atomic Habits.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, by systems, what I mean is a set of habits, right? Set of habits that you have for yourself. As you know, for example, from the Managing Happiness course, we have this software where you can track your habits. And I have 35 habits that I track every day, give or take, right? And I on a good day, I do like 30. On a regular day, I do like 22, 23, right? And yeah, not all of them are like habits in a way that they're like this, you know, I do them without knowing. Most of them, yes, but
Mm-hmm.
some of them I have to track. But either way, what I realized is, there was this really negative experience I had like around 3 years ago when I went back home for that break that I mentioned from college to start my business. It was very stressful because I was against a tight deadline. I have only 6 months to set up a profitable business. Very stressed. And I really realized that my motivation was going down. Like I just lost that ambition. I was like having a bad day every single day. Like I felt like I was dragging myself to do things I was doing. And really had no answer. Like, why is that happening? Where's my energy? Where's my natural energy? I was very ambitious. I was waiting for that moment where I don't have to study in college so I can focus on my work, and I'm finally doing it, but I don't have energy. And the reason now I realize is because back then I did not have a certain system in place where I would be waking up at a certain time and have list of things that I have to do no matter what I have planned for that. It's not a to-do list that you do for a day. No, it's the thing that you do over and over and over every single day. For example, my list goes as simple as the first habit I have on the list is smiling. Just go and give myself a big smile in the morning.
I started smiling before you even said that.
Exactly. See, it's very powerful, and sometimes you have to fake that smile, like just go like this, and like because the hormones got shoot off in your brain for that.
Yes, that is a really good point. Something that I teach guys is go in front of the mirror and just practice smiling, because then when you're not feeling so well, people won't think that you're upset. Okay, it'll just be a neutral.
Exactly. And yeah, it starts as simple as that. And then another thing I have on that list is, for example, Maui habit, something that is, I think it comes from a Hawaiian culture.
What is it?
You just have you have to tell yourself today is going to be the best day of my life.
Wow.
Just think that mentally. Yeah. Every single day, every morning I do that. But I started combining that with journaling, which is another habit that I have for every day. I write it on a paper, or actually I do it digitally. I just type and say, hey, today is going to be the best day of my life. And I will be very productive. Will be happy with my results at the end of the day. Short sentence. Sometimes I get inspired and I start writing more. And that's when my journaling really starts. But that's rare. Most of the time I just write one sentence saying today is going to be the best day of my life. And actually, it started impacting my days, because that's just the way it goes. So like things like that, and then it goes off to like checking a stock market, checking like my bank account. Oh, I was scared to check my bank account. That's another thing I had back in 2017 when I was struggling with my finances. Believe it or not, it was a nightmare. I had such a trouble opening my bank account, looking at it, because I was always scared it would be negative, or I would have very little money, or I owed money to someone. It was this fear. And I had to, believe it or not, even when I started making money, that fear stayed with me. I was always afraid to check my bank account. So I wrote that as one of my habits, that I'm going to check my bank account every single day, and I'm going to do my accounting at least once a week, and going to see how much money I have, and what you can track, what you can measure, you can improve. And I noticed that once I started tracking, even my savings account started going up, because I'm measuring it every single day, right? So it's all part of my system. And when you do that on an everyday basis, it's why religion is so important. I'm not a very religious person, but I'm like sometimes jealous of the religious people, especially like Muslims that are big on like praying 5 times. It's 5 times a day. You have to do certain thing, which even if I don't really support that big time, but I think that it gives you some kind of purpose. It runs you like a mechanism every single day. You focus on that. So
Sam, you can pray and not be religious.
That too. but to me,
if you really want to be on your purpose, okay. And I'm glad you brought this up, because it's not something that I usually bring up on the podcast. All right, so I'll credit it to you. But prayer is a really important habit for high earners, for the most successful people. All right, for the ones at higher levels of consciousness, they pray. And
wow.
Understanding that there's a difference between religious prayer, okay, and personal prayer is something that I still am learning about. But this year, especially when I start diving into the field of consciousness, you start to see that manifestation is real. Think and Grow Rich is not the title of one of the best books written on the law of attraction and manifestation for no reason. You really think it. You really think it, and you can embody it, and you can be it. And if we want to get into the being state rather than the doing state, okay, one of the ways in which you do that is through prayer. So I think it's very powerful that you brought that up and just dropped a silver nugget on this episode of the podcast.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think so too. Yeah. And for me, that's why I kind of developed these, I can call them prayers as well. Cause like the Maui habit, even like I'm telling myself it's going to be the best day of my life. It's sort of a ritual too, you know, and I do that every single day. And when you have repeatable things that you do every day, like make your bed, that's another simple, I don't even track that because I developed that back like 7 years ago. I've been making my bed every single day because it's like, you know, there's another thing that says success attracts success. So like start your day with this freaking success. It's a small success. You made your bed. It's a small thing, but it's a win. It's a win that you did it against your will or against your whatever, not willingness to do it. If you're not making your bed, you probably have some mess in your life as well, because then your day is starting with this mess. And do these small things, and they build up. They build up to your consciousness and to your intention. And believe it or not, after I started doing these systems, I haven't had a day where I was passive, because I hated that. It was this vicious cycle. I would become passive because I didn't feel like doing some things. And that's what I kind of taught myself this year, that even though I don't feel like doing, I still do things that I don't like. And when you do that, I eliminated these passive days at all. Because when I had those passive days, another bad thing happened is that I would give myself a feedback that, damn, I'm having this passive day. Now it's not going to be productive. Then I feel bad about that. And I feel bad about having bad feeling. And it's just a vicious cycle, keeps going and makes me miserable. I eliminated that completely thanks to systems. And I started implementing those systems from personal life to business as well, to answer your question, in a way that I'm organizing more of recurring meetings in my business with my team members, right? With every single team that I have, I've broken them up. We have more than 50 people working on a company, and I've broken them up into different small teams. And with every single one, we have at least one meeting a week where we go against the list of things that has been accomplished. So it's all getting systemized as well, right? And it's applicable to business just as it is applicable for your personal life.
Beautiful. If there was a reason why I brought you on the podcast, it was for that answer right there, that guys need to hear and to remember that the success in their business and dating life is not correlated just to how good they are at attraction or seduction or communication or persuasion. It's also attributed to the systems that they have in place and those habits that are super, super crucial for the mental and physical health of the individual, and can really be the X factor between whether or not you're going to be in the top 1% or whether you're just going to be struggling and settling in life. All right, Sam,
Exactly.
It's been amazing having you on the podcast. The final question that I ask most of the guys that come on is, how do you want to evolve your business and your dating life over the next 12 months?
Oh, next 12 months. Wow. So yeah, I think with the business, I have a clear set plan. With my dating life, that's where I probably need to dedicate a little more time and effort. Because
what's the set plan first for business right now? Where do you want to go in? Because we got the new year coming up. How's it going to be an amazing year for your business in 2021?
Yeah. So we have a lot of new projects that we're starting, and we got some financing. I just heard back like 2 days ago that we got approved for an investment on one of our projects.
Nice. Let's go.
Been awesome news. Yeah. Thank you. And so in the IT, I have many efforts, not many, but like around 5 big projects that we're going to be investing heavily in time and financial side. And that's kind of taken care of in that manner. I don't want to go too much into details because it'll be long,
No, that's perfect.
But and also, you know, I've shaped this business development team right now that's working really on like doubling and tripling our revenue, because you know, it's possible, and there's a lot of things I wanted to do this year. I learned delegation. That's another thing I learned, and I've been delegating to these guys, mentoring them, and also they're being great on getting things done for me. So
Beautiful.
business is evolving really well. And for my dating, that's more a personal note that I can perhaps like tell you in a private chat. But you know, I gotta confess that's something that I haven't paid too much attention to, because I was so focused on my work and really building up my career. And I still think that career for a guy is I guess more should be the priority. Your career should be a priority.
Your
And it's
purpose.
like, you know, your purpose, exactly. I was reading this book, really quick to mention. It's called The Way of the Superior Man.
Beautiful. That
Where,
was week 1 in our book club.
oh yeah, amazing book. I love that book. And he says there, you know, that the man has to pursue his purpose,
That's right.
and the woman then will pursue him, right? So that's been kind of my mantra. But I realized that also you have to put some effort into your dating life as well, because it is important to have a companion in life, because it's easier to go in life with a companion, right? Not necessarily even having to commit to a person, maybe at this age at least, but you know, having a companion in life is important, and that's something I'm going to be focusing on as well.
A lot of entrepreneurs, you know, they will get a little bit comfortable once they have success in their business life and not be able to translate it over into their personal life. So that's something that we see a lot, and we try to help a lot of entrepreneurs with in the mastermind. Okay, actually leveraging that success in business, okay, to, you know, attract not only your clientele but also the type of women, okay, and the type of romantic partners that you want to, you know, be with, who are going to help you to become even better at your craft, to lift you up. It's going to be like a teamwork, like a partnership. And I think it's something that is super important. I reverse engineered it. I learned more about the dating and the communication and the social dynamics. And now I'm getting into my purpose and my business. Okay. At, you know, I'm almost 30, but, you know, that was what I was super passionate about. So we all have our own path. But at the end of the day, once you find your purpose, that is when the dots, they start to connect. And
Sure,
the door appears. And then you get to choose, do you want to enter that door into the next paradigm, into the next level of consciousness, as I talk about in spiral dynamics? So, Sam, it's been great. I always enjoy catching up with you. And I know
likewise.
there's going to be big things ahead for you in your career. So I'm sure some of the guys in the mastermind got a lot out of this, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dave.
You're welcome.
Talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Peace.
Yeah.